making some homemade sauerkraut. My wife, Ems, has already cut up the cabbage. There's only 2 ingredients for homemade sauerkraut: cabbage and salt and thyme. That's all you need. So we got our cabbage sliced up. It's not real coarse, it's not real fine. It's up to you, but however you like it. We like ours kind of coarse, chunkier. So we've got 11.5 pounds of cabbage. Some recipes call for 2 teaspoons of salt per pound, some as much as 4. We only put 1 in. For us, it's salty enough. And for those of you who need to watch your sodium in your diet, then you definitely want it. 1 teaspoon per pound is all you need. So we've got 11.5 pounds. I'm not going to get technical. We'll do 12 teaspoons. And we use canning salt. You want non-iodized salt for this. So we just use canning salt. You can use sea salt, canning salt, the Himalayan pink salt, any of that, but don't use iodized salt. So we're going to put our salt in here. Now, it's good practice not to do what I just did. You should measure your ingredients out anytime you're baking or cooking or canning or anything. You should measure your ingredients in a bowl, in a measuring cup, and put it in a bowl. That way, you don't have to worry about your 4-year-old or your 2-year-old or your wife or someone come up asking you a question or saying, "Hey, Daddy," or say, "Hey, honey," and you forget where your count was. Then you're in trouble. If I've already put it in here, I'm like, uh-oh. Did I put 12 in or 2? That's a bad habit of mine. So I'd recommend you pre-measure it. But anyways, we got the salt in. What we're going to do now is we're just going to mix it in. We're going to mix that in. What that's going to do, the salt is going to start pulling the juice from the cabbage. And we don't want to pack it into our crock until the cabbage starts juicing up. So we're mixing our salt in. Then we're going to wait 10 to 15 minutes. You can wait 20 minutes. You can wait an hour. But what you want to happen is you want your cabbage to start juicing up. It's very important that you get juice in your cabbage to start coming out. So the salt's going to pull that juice out. The salt doesn't really act as a preservative. It acts to do exactly what we said. It starts pulling the juice out of the cabbage, and obviously it's there for flavor. What's happening here is this is going to ferment. Okay, it's going to ferment in what's called an anaerobic environment. It's going to ferment without air. So there's the bacteria that's going to grow in this grows in an environment absent of air. It feeds on the cabbage. The juice, the minerals from the cabbage. That's what creates sauerkraut. So the salt, I don't know. I've never tried to make it without salt. I wouldn't know why you'd do that. You wouldn't have sauerkraut then. So anyways, I'm getting this mixed in. It's all ready. It was dry, but it doesn't take, you can see it's dripping now. Doesn't take the salt long to start pulling the juice from this cabbage. So it's already doing that. Now what's going to happen, we're going to let this set for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we're going to, you can see there's some dry there, didn't get any salt on it yet. So, again, we may always make ours, people call me, "Ray, how many teaspoons of salt is that?" 1 teaspoon. I don't like it super salty, and some people can't have it super salty, so that's totally up to you. 2 is the most I would go, but 1 works great for us. So we're going to let this sit and just kind of You can see it's already gone down some. It'll start as the juice comes out, the cabbage goes limp, it gets soft, and see, it's starting to pack down already. And that's what we're gonna do in this crock. We're gonna pack it down tight like this, and the juice is gonna cover this. And then we're gonna seal the crock off so that air cannot get to it. So while we're waiting for this to juice up a little bit, I'll say a little bit about our crock. This is the crock we use. Crocks come in all different sizes. This particular crock, it's good for our home. We're not filling it. You don't have to fill your crock. This thing's probably going to be filled about 2/3 of the way. The important thing is that you don't allow air to get to it. And this particular crock, this is called an original Gartoff. I don't know if that's pronounced correctly or not. By Schmidt. This has a lip on it, an airlock lip. Most of your crocks you'll see just have a smooth ring around the top. They don't have this internal lip with this little moat around it. The lid also has 2 holes in it. What this is designed for, once you put your sauerkraut in there or anything, you can ferment anything in these, but you'll see the water line on this. You pour water in this, and then when this starts, the whole part of this is the bacteria, as it flourishes in here, it's going to give off gas. That's when you're going to smell the sauerkraut smell. But it's also, that gas needs to get out. The liquid, it's going to bubble. Okay, so it needs to get out. Well, you want the gas to get out. It's just like making cider. It's just like any type of fermentation. Gas bubbles will be produced. You want to let them escape. So this water barrier here, water trap, lets the gases bubble out. You'll hear this bloop, 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 bloop. It'll just keep bubbling. And the more active it is, the more you're going to hear it bubble. The air bubbles get out, the oxygen cannot get back in. The oxygen gets in, you're going to have other kinds of funky bacteria growing, and it's not going to be good sauerkraut. So this is nice. However, we don't depend just on this. This, you're going to be filling it every day or every other day. And if you don't remember to do it, this dries up, air gets sucked in. We did a batch last time. What I do to prevent that from happening, you'll see us do it. I just take a Ziploc bag or any bag. We're going to place that down in there. We're going to fill this with water and then close it. That creates a great seal. You don't have to worry about filling this all the time. You can still keep this full, but that'll create a great seal over top of your cabbage and prevent air from getting down into it. So these crocks also, at least this one, come with weights, which are nice. You want to keep your cabbage weighted down because as the bacteria starts to work, it'll tend to rise. It's like anything, if you put something in the water, and its bacteria starts working on it, the bubbles, it's going to make it float to the top. You put your weights in there, it keeps it from floating to the top. So we'll put our weights on our cabbage once we put it in there, and then we'll put our water on top. And then we'll let it sit for about 6 weeks. We just take a piece of tape, put the date on it, and wait for 6 weeks. Now, depending on how you like that's another beauty of making your own sauerkraut. You know what's in it. And here's why we make our own sauerkraut, because of the probiotics in raw sauerkraut. You buy canned sauerkraut in the store, that's been processed under high temperatures and pressure. There's no living organisms in that sauerkraut anymore. So you're not getting any of the benefits. People say, oh, eat sauerkraut, it's good for you. It's good for you if you eat it in its raw, natural, living state. It's not good for you if you freeze it or cook it. You've killed all the benefits to it. So the cabbage is still good for you, but if you want the true benefits of sauerkraut, you want the probiotics, the good stuff, you make it raw. When this is done in 6 weeks, we're going to take it and we'll pack it into quart canning jars. And then we'll put them in the refrigerator. And they'll stay in the refrigerator for months. It just stops. stops them. The cooler temperature stops the bacteria from working, puts it in a dormant state, and your cabbage won't ferment any further. Now, back to fermentation time. 6 weeks is about what we like. The longer you wait, the softer your cabbage will get, the stronger the taste will be. So if you like it more crispy, crunchy, check it in 5 weeks. If it's too crunchy, wait another week. So that's the beauty of making another reason to make your own sauerkraut is you can have the texture and the taste that you prefer. If you want a light taste and still get the benefits of the cabbage and the sauerkraut, then you don't wait as long. If you want a really strong sauerkraut and a soft sauerkraut like you're usually going to get, like when you buy the bags of sauerkraut in the grocery store, which is expensive. I think we paid $4 the other day. We ran out and we were doing bratwurst for Father's Day, so we had to buy a bag. And that's why we said, oh, we need to get some more cabbage and make some more sauerkraut. We're out. That was about $4 for a bag. And we're biased. We make our own, but we don't care for the taste of that. But the bagged sauerkraut supposedly is in its raw natural state. There's no preservatives in it. That's why it's kept in the cooler section at your grocery store. So what we're going to do, we have some here. When this will help kickstart our culture. This will take off all on its own. Nature will take care of this. But if you want to get it started a little quicker, we're going to take the juice from this sauerkraut we bought in the store the other day, and we're going to pour that in there. So now you've got some of that active bacteria. It's going to give it a little jump start. So we'll pour that in there. And we do the same thing. Usually we're on our last jar or two of sauerkraut. It's time to make a new batch. We'll take the juice out of one of those jars and pour it in there. We're just continuing that culture. It's kind of like making, it's the same thing as making anything that you want to ferment. If you're making your own yogurt, you're going to have a culture you're going to use. You're making cider, you might have a yeast culture you prefer. So if you got a flavor that you really like, the thing about letting nature take its course, like in cider, like in any type of fermentation, you're always subject to the flavor of the day. What bacteria, what yeasts are floating around in the air at the time you do this that are most dominant? Sauerkraut's pretty consistent, but there again, you say, man, this is the best batch of sauerkraut we've ever made. If you didn't change anything in the recipe, it happens to be that particular bacteria strain that did really well. You want to save that. You want to keep perpetuating that. Every time you make a batch, pour some of that back in there. So we're going to wait a little bit, and then we're going to pack this into this crock. And I mean pack it. We're going to pack it tight. Now, you can make yourself a tamper. You can use like a potato masher. You're going to stomp, and I'm doing this so you can see it visually. You're not going to see it down in there. You're going to stomp your cabbage down. You're going to tamp it down. Okay? So you can use this. Some people that do a lot of cabbage, they have looks like a wooden stake with a block on the end of it. It's got crisscrosses in it. So, and they'll take that as they put it in their crock, and someone will stand there and they'll just tamp that in. Me personally, I usually use my fist down in this smaller crock. So, whatever you do, you're going to tamp it down tight, tamp it tight, tamp it tight. You're going to do it layer by layer. And then when it gets to the top, we'll see where the juice is on it. That's going to help it juice up as you do it. It's going to get it down tight. You can see we are juicing up. It doesn't take long. So, and I'm not squeezing this really hard. So, but you can see what tamping does. It pulverizes that a little bit. It gets the juices flowing in this. And you want that to be airtight. You want to get all the air out of there. So we're going to pack that down here in a little bit. It's been about 15 minutes. You can see our cabbage is lots of water coming out now. So that's what the salt did. Let it sit for 10-15 minutes. And mix it up a little bit again here. And you can see, this had looked a lot fuller before we put the salt in and stirred it up. So this significantly doesn't change the weight, but it changes the volume. So, but you can see down here now, we're getting juice now. It's starting to juice up. But so now we'll put some in here. We're going to do this in layers. As I said earlier, you can use a potato masher. You can build a tamper. I usually use my fist. Put a layer in. And just tamp it down. It's getting soggy. You can hear it. Now, for those of you worried, okay, he's sticking his arm down in there. If you don't want to do that, like I said, build a tamper, but we're fine with it here. Put some more in. You know, I can use the potato masher, same thing. I prefer using my fist. I can feel where I'm at. Because this, again, most crocks are wide open at the top, and you can get them short and fat. You know, larger diameter, you're going to get them tall, whatever. This has a smaller because it's got this lip around it. So it's hard to look down in there and get different objects in here. So, you know, if you've got an open crock, you have probably more options. You can see what you're doing, but I'd like to show you this. But I can hear it in there. You can hear the water. It's juicing up. The amount we have here, well, it's probably going to be about half full when we're done. Juicing up real good. Get lots of juice in there now. You want it when you're done. You want that juice to cover your cabbage. So, and that's what we're doing right now. I'm feeling we're getting lots of juice in there. I take my whole hand and press it. We're getting lots of juice coming to the top. That's perfect. It's not even going to be half full. Close, but not quite. So as you can see, a lot of cabbage. It looked like a lot. It doesn't go very far when it comes to putting it in a vessel to ferment. And we're going to put that in there. All our juice here. Press it down with my hand. Yeah, it's getting nice and juicy. Okay, if we can bring the camera around here and see if we can get a peek down in there. I'll turn a light on. You can see it's juiced up in there really good. So you can see it's right to the top. That's what you want. Now what we're going to do, as I said before, we're going to take some of this sauerkraut that we bought in the store. We've got instant culture there. So that'll really give it a little kickstart. That'll be bubbling here within 24, because it's, this is June 22nd, 2020. It's about 80 degrees out. You get in the 70s, 80s, this stuff's going to cook real quick. By cook, I mean the yeast is really going to get active. So by throwing that in there, the culture from that bagged sauerkraut, within 24 hours, this is going to be bubbling. So the next thing we want to do, when we first get our cabbage, we always save some of the big outer leaves. Not the very outer leaves. You don't know if they got spray or chemicals. But you'll save some of these bigger leaves just to kind of create a barrier, an extra barrier. We'll just kind of lay them along the top. Just an extra barrier between the sauerkraut and any outside elements. It only takes a few. Then we're going to put our weights on it. And we'll just give them a little press just to get those juices. You can see we've got juice. No water added or needed. So now we could, see you've got a lot of airspace here. Almost a little more than half of this is airspace. You got to put that air trap on here and pour water. But if you, like I said, it dries out and you forget, air's going to suck in there. You got all that air volume in there, and that's where your bad bacteria can get in. So the next thing we do, just a Ziploc bag on this particular crock. I've done it on big crocks. You use a trash bag. Just something that holds the water, doesn't let the water get in, but then the bubbles can creep up along the sides of it and let the gas bubbles out. You've got a bigger crock, you might need 2 bags. Anyways, you don't need it full of water, just enough. Leave a little gap so the air can come out. We just sit that down in there, like so. It'll lay down naturally all by itself. You see that one there? If you look, well, what I did is I put too much water in it because I want it to lay out flat. We want this to lay out flat. There we go. It's going to lay down in there like this. And then we put it down in there. This bag must be smaller than the last one, just not quite getting the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is put 2 in. I tell you, they changed dimensions on this stuff. I don't know what brand this is, but usually a 1 gallon bag in this particular crock will completely seal this. Maybe I just need to pull it over a little bit. Yeah, that's got it. So we've got our bag in there now. We got it sealed tight. We double check that seal. Lay it down. Now we have a watertight airlock in there. So the gas bubbles can get out. They'll come up the sides and out. The air cannot get down into it. Now we take the top. Just wipe off any cabbage and stuff here. Put our lid on. Again, if you had a larger crock, you put a trash bag or whatever in there, you still want to put something on top to keep the bugs and stuff out, you know, a board or anything. Just put a rock on it. But this one here, as you can see, we're filling up our water lock there. You got a hole. You can find it right there. Here's one hole, and the other hole's back here. About 24 hours, this sucker's going to be bubbling like crazy because we put that culture in there from the bagged sauerkraut we bought from the grocery store the other day. So we'll check it in about 6 weeks.
Hey, 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 hey.